Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Bob's Live, our weekly show right here on the internet. And if you're seeing this again, sorry, but our internet connection is not cooperating. It keeps dropping out, and when it does, I really don't know where it stops at, so I just had to start over. And if this looks a little bit fuzzier than usual, I had to cut down on the bandwidth. Hopefully we're going to be getting a new internet provider, so we'll be looking into that. But anyhow, let's start off today's show with some announcements. And the first is our summer savings blowout sale. So you can come on over, and we have tons of stuff marked down to around 50% off. We have bedding plants. They're now just $6.98 each. And that also goes for hanging baskets. You can get them for $6.98 each too. Or you can get them two for $13. And you can also mix and match them. So you can get like one hanging basket and one flat. And we have 6-inch zinnia pots. They were $2.98. Now they're just $1.99. And all of our tropicals, our Florida tropicals, are 50% off. Things like hibiscus, mandevilla, gardenias, the big Kimberly Queen ferns. And we also have the Bob's Better Blooms. They're regularly $25 a flat. You can get them for $12.98 a flat or $1.99 per pot. So here's actually a little commercial that I put together earlier today. It's kind of cute. I guess you could call that last picture a hot dog. He's our biggest fan. I also wanted to remind you about the Yard of the Month contest. You can send pictures to ask@bobsmarket.com, and I'll get those, and I'm dropping them into a folder. And we need to have the submissions for June in by June 30th. So if you want to enter the Yard of the Month contest, make sure you get your pictures into me. And let's take a look now at the weather forecast. Last week, and this week, it's been pretty hot. Highs up in the 90s. But now things are finally starting to cool off. And Saturday and Sunday, it's still going to be kind of warm. Sunday is going to be a little bit warmer than Saturday, up around 90 degrees. But heading into Monday and Tuesday, it's really going to cool off. Well, on Monday, there's a slight chance for a storm in the morning. And a little bit of a cold front's going to move through and really cool things off. In fact, the low for Monday night, we're looking at 49. And then a high of just around 77 on Tuesday, which that's more like May temperatures instead of June. And then moving on later into the week, the temperatures are going to start to inch back up as we move on toward Friday. So let's take a look at some national weather maps. So for Saturday, you can see it's still pretty warm, pretty much all across the U.S. And not a lot of a chance of rain. There were some little rain showers that moved through earlier today. And that's pretty much our best shot of rain up until maybe Monday evening. And speaking of the temperature drop, if we look at this map and then go to Tuesday, you can see that it really kind of cools off in the northeast up in our area. And of course, it's still going to be sunny, so make sure you put on some sunscreen. The UV index isn't quite as high as it has been, but there's still a good chance you can get burnt. And now let's take a look at the allergy forecast, and I've got some great news. On our scale of 1 to 12, we are at 3.9, so we're actually down almost into the low range now, which is great. And our main pollen concerns, if we take a look at the maps, of course grass pollen is still kind of high, and the other thing is weed pollen. Which it's on the rise in our area. So our two main pollen concerns right now are grass and weed pollen. And this week, if you read the newsletter, I talked about caladium care. And I went out yesterday. I wanted to do it in the morning, but I got held up and couldn't do it till evening. So it was kind of like being in a sauna doing this, but I went out and filmed a video in the greenhouse about caladiums. So let's take a look at that now. Hi, John Morgan here with Bulbs Market and Greenhouses. And in this video, we're going to share some tips to help you care for caladiums. Caladiums cannot tolerate low temperatures, so be sure to plant them after all danger of frost has passed and the ground has warmed up to around 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Caladiums prefer well-drained soil and high humidity. Whew. It's like a sauna in here. Oh. You may find it necessary to supplement the soil for your caladiums. The plants prefer a consistent pH of 6.0 to 6.2. To maintain this level, amend the soil with items such as pine bark and compost, as well as potash. Because caladiums have thin leaves, they are very light sensitive. So plant them only in shade or areas with partial filtered sunlight. They pair up good with plants like impatiens that are also shade-loving plants. Plant your caladiums in a spot where they will not be affected by wind. Too much wind can damage the plant's large leaves. It is possible to store your caladiums over the winter. Dig up the caladium tubers before frost sets in. Lay them out in a cool, dry area, and when the caladium tubers are dry, remove the dead leaves and store them in net bags until spring. Make sure that the temperatures in the area where you store the tubers do not drop below 60 degrees Fahrenheit. For this and other great information, visit us online at bulbsmarket.com. Alright, so those were some caladium care tips. And I forgot to mention that caladiums are also a little bit poisonous. They have compounds called oxalates, which are sort of like crystallized forms of calcium that our bodies can't digest. So, yeah, you want to avoid eating them. But this information, you can find it in our newsletter. And of course, the easiest way to get it is to text bulbs to the number 22828, and that will register you. And well, that pretty much finishes up our show for this week. And of course, you can check us out every week right here at 4 o'clock on Fridays. That is, if our internet connection is working. Hopefully I'll be remedying that in the next few weeks. So, until next time, I'll see you later.